If you're new to fighting games, or you've ever wondered how to improve your gameplay from a technical standpoint, you must have pondered the question, which one really gives the edge in fighting games? Arcade sticks or gamepad controllers? Is the arcade stick just a nostalgic flex, or does it actually make you better? What do the pro players use? And should I be using the same thing? Welcome to Edge Gaming, and today we'll be breaking it all down, from execution to ergonomics, precision, cost, and competitive advantage, across 2D fighters and 3D fighters. If you're new to the channel, I have a small request to make. If you could take a quick moment to like and subscribe, it would really help the channel to reach more people and to continue to grow. It only takes a moment of your time, but it makes a big difference to the channel. Now, let's get into it. Before we dive into the comparisons, let's define the two. The arcade stick, usually called the fight stick, is a specialized controller designed to replicate the feel of Japanese arcade cabinets primarily used for fighting games and arcade titles. It features a base unit with a usually ball-topped joystick to the left and a set of 6 to 8 action buttons on the right, typically allowing for more precise inputs. Variations of the arcade stick include the hitbox, which switches out the joystick for 4 directional buttons, or the mixbox, which has a stylized WASD keyboard-like directional button in place of the joystick. Console controllers, on the other hand, or gamepads, are handheld input devices used to interact with video game consoles, PCs, and even smartphones. They feature action buttons, bumpers, triggers, directional inputs, and analog sticks for movement on the right and on the left. Usually held with both hands, they allow players to control on-screen actions through thumb-operated inputs. Variations of the controller or the gamepad include the fight pad, which attempts to combine the design of the arcade stick with the compact features of the gamepad. Arcade sticks have primarily been the choice for professional fighting game players over the years. However, in recent times, we've seen a significant number of pro players like Punk, Mr. Crimson, and Blaz using gamepads with notable levels of success at tournaments. It, however, is important to note that fight sticks are still the predominant choice for pro players. Now let's get into the advantages and the disadvantages of both devices. We'll start with the arcade stick, the OG of fighting games. The biggest strength of the fight stick is input clarity. It might not be the easiest or most intuitive to use, especially for players who aren't from the arcade era. But when you get a hang of the directional controls, inputs are more precise. The joystick gives you very defined directions, especially for complicated motions like the electric wind god fist from the Tekken series. In games like 2D fighters and anime fighters, it can make execution feel more controlled. Another advantage of the fight stick is the fact that it has 6 to 8 large buttons laid out in a straight line on the face of the controller, so your fingers have more space to breathe. This makes complex inputs easier to engage and more comfortable, especially when you have to enter inputs that require multiple button presses like drive impacts or throws. Another advantage of the fight stick is that because of the physical size and separation of inputs, many players find it easier to execute complex inputs consistently without any long-term physical drawbacks. This makes the fight stick the more ergonomic choice for players who play long sets and have to play for extended periods of time. Finally, arcade sticks are quite easy to modify and maintain, with replacement parts being easily accessible online. You could literally build your very own fight stick from scratch. What this means is that an arcade stick will serve you more long-term than any gamepad controller can. And now to the disadvantages. The first thing is that the fight stick has a high learning curve. If you're not from the arcade era, or you're transiting from gamepad controllers to fight stick, That transition can be a little tough. You're basically relearning how to move your character, and that can take a while. Next is movement speed. Because of the large surface area and the spread of the buttons and the joystick, for moves that require fast directional taps and rapid inputs, that can be a little slower on the fight stick compared to the gamepad controller. This becomes noticeable in fast-paced anime fighters or games that require rapid movement inputs. Another factor to consider is the cost. Gamepad controllers typically come within a price range of about $20 on the low end to $200 on the high end. However, fight sticks have a different price range. On the low end, they come in at about $150, and on the high end, they can cost as high as $300 and upwards. Movement and portability is another thing to consider. Fight sticks are very large and bulky, and some, like the Nikon Daija, are quite heavy. So it's something you have to consider. It's not something you can throw in your laptop bag or along with other devices. Most times you would have to have a dedicated bag strictly for your controller, or just carry your controller in your hand. So it's not something you can easily carry around and forget about it like the gamepad controller. Now let's talk about controllers. This is the most accessible and widely used option today. Pads excel in speed. Quick directional inputs like dashing in 3D fighters or air dashing in anime fighters are often easier and faster on the controller. It also has a low barrier to entry. You already own one. You already know how to use it, which makes pads the easiest way to jump into fighting games immediately. Game controllers are compact and travel friendly. Pads are portable and often come in a convenient carrying case. You can take them around with you without any extra hassle. There's also the advantage of versatility. After you're done with your fighting games, you can still use your game controllers for other genre of games. Game controllers also come with their own fair share of downsides. The first is finger crowding. Everything is crammed into a small space. Therefore, simultaneous button presses can be tricky. There's also the issue of durability, especially of the D-pad, because of the amount of punishment the D-pad takes in fighting games. It tends to wear out easily, thereby necessitating a replacement. And finally, there's the issue of physical strain. Intense use of gamepads commonly lead to musculoskeletal disorders, particularly in the hands, wrists, and sometimes in the elbows, often described as overuse injuries resulting from repetitive microtrauma. The most common issues range from temporary discomfort to chronic conditions that may require long-term treatment. So how does each controller perform by game type? This is where things get interesting. For 2D fighters, stick is strong for motion inputs and combos. Pad is strong for speed. Both are extremely viable here. For 3D fighters, I'd say stick takes the crown. It's viable both for movement and for tricky inputs like the electric wind godfist. Pad is also good, but I'd say because Tekken depends on movement, the stick is the superior choice here. For anime fighters, pad is great for fast movement, for air dashes. Stick is still great for combos and for comfort. So let's demystify some myths here. Your controller does not determine your skill level. Top players are winning tournaments on both sides. What matters most is consistency, comfort, and practice. So what's the verdict? Which should you choose? You choose the arcade stick if you value comfort and button space, and if you enjoy the arcade feel. You also choose it if you are willing to invest the time it takes to learn how to effectively use it. You choose the controller if you want speed and efficiency, if you're just starting out in fighting games, or if you prefer portability and convenience. So what's my final take? The truth is, the best controller is the one you're most consistent with. Switching won't magically level you up. Mastery will. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments, which do you prefer? Are you team stick or team pad? And more importantly, why? And if there's anything you disagree with me, any opinions or anything you feel is different, you can also put it in the comments and let's hash it out. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.